Welcome.
Oh,
Episode 2 of The Nutritional Edge, your favorite dietitian, Nathan Slinkard, and your favorite functional chiropractor, Dr. Chris Brown. What's up, everybody? We're going to be diving into the immune system and everyone suffering from cold and flu and those that don't want to get that. What can we do to prevent it, to help get over it?
that's awesome. What's up, everybody? Before we get going in on this, looks like we got one person watching. That might be my mom. She might be going on a walk right now. Maybe she'll pop a little smile as she's hearing this. But last week, like I said, we're doing this every Thursday at noon this year, the Nutritional Edge. And we're going into all things nutrition, food, little tiny details. Some point, I'm probably going to grab a bar up front and just go through the label and see what we got. But before we get going, things going on around the month of January. It sounds like Nathan got a little health fair coming up. What's going on with that? Tell us about it.
Yeah. So we're both involved in a nonprofit called Happier, Healthier Arkansas. And our goal is to improve the health of Arkansas, which hovers around 49th in the nation, to first. That's what we want to elevate it to. So just improve people's health through education and free resources. And so we have our first health fair in Whitehall, Arkansas, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we're going to be having booths and talks and a panel and all kinds of good stuff, freebies. So if you want to come out and join us and see Chris and I and a whole bunch of other holistic professionals, then that's the place to be. What about you, Chris? Awesome. What do you have coming up?
Oh, what do we not have? We have a natural state wellness fair this Saturday up in Conway. So I got a booth going on for that. There's going to be speakers on Saturday, and then Sunday's a bunch of activities. So like yoga, sound bath, cacao ceremony, ecstatic dancing. There's a couple other things going on there too. So that's what I'm participating in. Next Saturday, January 20th, 10 a.m. I'm doing my first walk with friends group walk. You gonna be there, Nathan?
I will actually be out of the country. I'll be out of the state in Texas. So I wish out of the country, right?
Texas is pretty much out of the country.
Yeah, right. To Arkansans, that's true. Yeah, so I'll be in Texas, unfortunately.
Well, the good part is that it's happening every third Saturday of the month at 10.
Nice. So I'll come to the next one.
Yeah, February, no excuses. I don't care if you're out of the country.
Right. Put it on the books.
So when we were figuring this one out, what to do for the week, pretty much we're just kind of going week to week, trying to figure out what we're going to go in on. And I had a patient on Monday who was sick. She was like flu, cough, fever, just not feeling well. She came in, got checked, nervous system was blasted. So she left clearing out, which was good. And she's like, what do I do? And I was like, okay, so we're going to do at home. You're going to take vitamin C, vitamin D, get zinc, get magnesium, B. She's all like, wow. She's like, oh, thanks. And I was like, yeah, I mean, essentially, like, what's going on is your body ran out of bullets. It just ran out of ammo. This is the ammo. But then I was all like, oh, I know what food has that stuff. And I was like, strawberries, blueberries, this stuff. But then when it came down to some of the deeper things, I was like, shoot, this is where my fluency starts going out the door. And this is when I need Nathan to we basically just need to just lock arms and just go wherever we can together.
Yeah.
So there's no stone left unturned, but that's what we're doing. Basically, foods that have the ammo, and how to keep us from getting sick. So I know that you brought up some studies, and I'm actually pretty interested in hearing what studies you brought up. So yeah, dude, what do we got?
Well, before I start that, there's two things I want to mention. One is non-food based things that are just so important that if you're not doing this, if you're not taking care of yourself in this way, your food-based goals are not going to be as effective. There's no way. But before I even talk about that, I did want to summarize a couple points from our last live that I thought were really helpful. And we were going in on all things resolutions and diet goals, etc. And what I was really stressing was not to go on a restrictive diet, but to find the food intake that's best for you. And I think that started with mentality. So correcting your mentality so that way when you execute, things go really, really well and those goals will last that whole year. And then what I really enjoyed was your baseball season analogy and just giving a lot of grace to January through March as spring training. April through October, the real season hits, and November and December is recap and debriefing about how the year went. And I've enjoyed that. So thank you for that.
Nice. That's cool. And my mom gave a couple good takeaways. One was the concept of like the Nathan recipe versus the Chris recipe and how each recipe is different and how everybody needs to find their own. She also liked the family accountability aspect where it's like we're doing this together as a unit, not just me. So that way having the whole family bought in on maybe the type of change that is trying to be applied within the household, within the food that's contained within the fridge. Those were a couple that she liked, and then also the concept of this year being the training ground for a habit that you're hoping to have locked in for the end of the year for the rest of your life and time. But food studies, immune system. Tell me about those.
Yeah. So those non-food based approaches that you've got to be doing to take care of your immune system is proper sleep. We always go back to that, proper sleep. And you and I both have times where our sleep sucks and we feel it. Not just low energy, but it has been well researched that sleep deprivation will worsen your immune system. So you'll pay for a lack of sleep, whether you like it or not. So that's the first thing I think that someone should correct. And listen to your body. If you are feeling extra tired during this year, people sometimes beat themselves up and they say, man, I've just got to get better. But if you're tired and, it's okay to rest, give yourself some more rest. And then people should not be smoking or using tobacco. I mean, that's a whole nother story, and that can be very difficult to achieve, smoking cessation. But yeah, alcohol, smoking, and sleep are three different things that can be addressed that aren't really food-based.
Very nice. Yeah, with sleep, that makes me think of like if we're not getting sleep typically going to be parasympathetic nervous system activity because we're resting and our body's trying to repair itself. But if we can't sleep, that's going to make us stay in a sympathetic tone. And being in your sympathetic system, which is aspect of your nervous system that deals with fight or flight, running from a lion, being freaked out, being in a stress state, those are good in tiny, tiny bursts. But that's not a state of being that we want our nervous system to be in over chronic periods of time, because that really is going to implicate the function of our nervous system and also our hormones. And especially with food and our immune system works when we're in more of a parasympathetic or a regulatory nervous system state. So if we're stuck in sympathetic, there's multiple studies in a book I have in my house. There's multiple studies saying that sympathetic nerves, the actual neurotransmitters that are being released in them, they actually suppress immune system function. So if we're stuck in a sympathetic tone, then it makes sense that immune system function will be suppressed. So what stimulates immune system tone is the release of acetylcholine, which is from the postganglionic fibers of the parasympathetic nerves. So if those parasympathetic nerves aren't firing well, because we're stuck in sympathetic tone, then it makes sense why immune system function is going to be down, thus more people getting sick.
So you could say if our body is stressed, then we prioritize survival above our immune system.
Totally. Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. Dude, our brain is literally like, I know what it takes to live one more day. And so I am focused gung ho on that, which means everything else backseat. We'll figure that
Backseat.
out tomorrow. And then you get to
Mhm.
tomorrow, and guess what? I'm still in survival mode, which means just one more day. And then that's when you get the people that are like, I just got to make it through the week day by day so I can get to the weekend and then I'll be okay. And it's like, dude, focus on today. Like,
Yeah.
why not
Yeah.
get good today? Why do you have to wait? Yeah,
Mhm.
totally. All
That's
right.
that's when we have
So,
a whole nother podcast on or podcast, another live video on stress and how our whole gut function takes a backseat, which can worsen all
mm,
types of gut issues.
yeah,
But
same concept. I mean, stress, parasympathetic, can't let the gut nerves work, can't digest, can't absorb. And then that's also going to implicate our immune system too.
yep, definitely.
Um, so food stuff, immune
Mhm.
system. What
Yep.
we understand the vitamins that we need to have, right? The B, C, D, magnesium. Any others that or zinc is a big one.
Yep. hmm
So
Yeah. B6 is one that has been studied to play a role. Their omega-3 we know has
yeah.
anti-inflammatory properties, but it
hmm
probably also helps our immune system fight off
hmm
infections and viruses.
Big time. Totally.
One that
Uh,
I think is very foundational is just calorie energy intake.
mm,
So if someone is at a weight that is high, let's say they have elevated body fat percentage, um, it's been well documented that their immune system is worse. They'll probably have more sick days. They'll probably take longer to get over sickness. But, and this is one of the studies I found really interesting. I was looking into what if someone's not getting enough calories, and there's research to show that their immune system will also be impacted big time. So um,
to say
that
positively or negatively impacted.
negatively.
Hmm.
So for instance, that has me worried for people that are losing weight rapidly via bariatric surgery, Manjaro, Ozempic, some of those medications where people are losing weight in an unnaturally fast way. Um, so, like with many nutrition based concepts, balance is key. So, too many calories, too few calories is going to eventually impact the immune system's ability to fight off cold and flu.
Totally. Um, That's interesting because I've also learned on the contrary too, like certain types of fats can be really beneficial for when you're sick, because especially viruses they feed off of sugar.
Hmm.
So which makes it, dude, just so contradictory to go get a cough drop. Because
Hmm.
if you get a cough drop, what's in it? Sugar. What do
Hmm.
viruses feed off of? Sugar.
Yeah.
Therefore, the thing that you're buying that's supposedly helping out the issue that you have is actually going to make you have the issue for longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the heck, dude? It's
I
messed
know.
up.
All right. And my go to for like when you're feeling sick, like we want to grab like ginger ale, Sprite, like that's just like something um, to get in our system. And I think that's where you prioritize um, what's going on. So recently on Christmas, I had a really bad case of stomach flu, and
Mm,
I was losing a lot of fluids due to vomiting, and I just needed to replace my fluids. And so, because I was not able to keep anything down, and so in those cases, I prioritize hydration and electrolytes. Um, so I had like a regular sports drink just to get some of those things in. Um, but you're right. If added sugars are not helping in those cases of if we're just kind of feeling a little bit of a cold, yeah, when we look at our products and then we're like, well, dang. Most of the time, people just we eat a lot of comfort foods. I don't know, like McDonald's or something like that. It's really common for someone when they're sick. There's like I don't feel very well. I just want to eat comfort food.
that's an interesting topic. So we get sick, we feel bad because we're sick.
Mm,
Thus, we want to feel good in that
mm,
moment, but we don't want to have the delayed gratification of being unsick. We want to just feel good right now. And so we resort towards eating something that actually isn't well and something
Yeah.
that isn't going to be supporting our immune system in that moment. Because when we get sick, when we express symptoms, that means that we're out of ammo. It means that my cells are empty, my reserves are empty, I'm tapped. Thus, the virus is winning the game. It's winning the battle.
Yeah.
So let's go through a quick synoptic list. What are the top 3 to 5 foods in vitamin C?
Hmm. Um, so the ones that people always go to are citrus fruits. So your orange, pineapple, mango are good sources of vitamin C, but also broccoli is a good source, and bell peppers are another underrated source. Um, so one of the options for people when they're feeling sick is to do like a good soup, like a warm soup with salt in it for electrolytes, cooked chicken for some protein, and then some of those vegetables. Get in some of those vegetables. Um, Carrots have beta carotene, which we convert to vitamin A. So chicken soup is a good tried and true sick food.
What's your take on salt? Yay or nay? Does salt cause high blood pressure?
No, I don't think it causes it. I
What
think
causes high blood pressure?
that's controversial for sure as far as salt.
Let's
Man,
get
you
let's
could
get controversial.
that's
Let's
a
get
whole nother
controversial.
life, man. We can't do that. um, well, a lot of things can contribute to high blood pressure. It usually stems from too much body fat percentage. It can stem from inactivity, genetics, not enough potassium. Those are the main
Mm.
things.
Okay, so what kind
So
of foods have a good amount of potassium?
the things that Americans aren't eating, fruits and vegetables, fruits and vegetables, whole foods. The if you go for lower processed foods, your potassium intake is going to go up.
Mm.
So I don't think that the majority of people have a sodium problem. I think that they have a potassium deficiency.
Ooh, say that
Sure.
again.
Yeah. It's not the salt. It's not too much salt. It's too little potassium is why people are having
Mm.
high blood pressure problems. And
Nice.
there's again, a really great study that looked at salt intake and high blood pressure. And their conclusion was that, and again, this is one study, so you have to look at multiple. But this was a meta-analysis that said it mathematically doesn't make sense to tell people to restrict salt because 90% of the world's population is already eating the salt intake that is not associated with higher risk of mortality, meaning that these low salt recommendations are not based off of actual evidence. So
Mm.
there are studies to show that if someone is hypertensive, so they already have out of whack blood pressure, that going on the lowering salt can lower their blood pressure. But there's also a lot of research to show that if you are a healthy adult without really high blood pressure, lowering your salt intake is not going to make you healthier. So,
So then what has more of an impact on blood pressure? Salt or alcohol?
I think in the short term, salt would probably make a more acute difference. But if you're talking about chronic um, intakes, I don't know. I always go back to lower potassium. I really think that is
Mm.
huge. The recommended dietary allowance and the dietary guidelines for Americans used to recommend 4,700 milligrams of potassium. They lowered it, not because evidence said we should lower it, but because, to my knowledge, people just couldn't make it. About 2% of Americans were getting that much. So I think that they changed it because it was just an impossible goal based on our highly refined food environment, which is just sad.
So 2% of Americans are having enough daily potassium intake.
Yeah. It's like the lowest nutrient
Dude, we
intake.
never even focus on potassium. We only focus on sodium and salt. I'm thinking that salt's
Yeah.
the enemy.
Yeah.
Whereas like the reason that they have high blood pressure from my lens is that is that you've probably been consuming, like you were talking about, processed foods to where we now are starting to have some like atherosclerosis. So inability for our blood vessels to dilate and thus
Yeah.
be able to have to withstand adaptable changes to blood pressure.
Mm.
Thus, if we're trying to force blood through a fixed diameter of a tube, um, our blood pressure is going to have to go higher to push that blood through. And also, if there's poor nutrients flowing through that blood is not going to be able to flow as well as it
Mm.
can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, one thing I want to know is what food. So, like you said, fruits, vegetables, whole foods have a lot of potassium. Do you have any like specifics at the top?
Yeah, absolutely. So melon, watermelon, cantaloupe, honeydew melon, um, just all types of plant foods. So beans and potatoes, um, all kinds of different fruits, apples. Those are all really good sources of bananas. I always forget. I'm like, I always run through all these ones and they're like, well, isn't banana's not the only thing that has potassium, and it's not the highest thing either. But yeah, bananas, good source of potassium.
And in chiropractic school, we were learning about an action potential, which is what the power or benefit. Why we even need electrolytes in the first place is because of action potentials. That's what makes our cells go round.
Mm.
But I asked them because we were talking about hypo and hyperkalemia, which is too much or too little potassium. I
Yeah.
asked him, so if how many bananas would it take me to eat if I were to get hyperkalemia? Because it's like almost impossible.
Right.
And he was all like, you basically have to eat a pickup truck full of bananas before you even come close.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's an interesting concept. If you look at someone's lab work where they run sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, very, very little of those minerals are needed to complete what you're talking about, which is nerve conduction, muscle contractions, very, very minute amounts. So if you have a low calcium level, it's not due to low calcium intake. 99% of your calcium is in your bones. If you have a low calcium and it's consistently low, you have a kidney problem. Your kidneys are not working properly. So if you have low potassium or high potassium, that is really scary. And in the acute hospital setting, doctors prioritize that really, really high because that can stop your heart. So um, that that happens in critically ill patients who have these metabolic conditions, maybe really, really advanced kidney disease. So yeah, if people are like, well, I don't want to have too much high potassium, it's not the bananas you're eating unless you have dialysis type kidney disease. So yeah.
Mm, mm. So recap that real quick. So you said that people who have too low of calcium is not because you're not drinking enough milk. It's because we have a kidney issue.
Yeah, if you want to assess your bone density with like a DEXA scan, that's how you can see if you're consuming enough calcium, vitamin D, vitamin K2 to prevent osteoporosis. It's not going to be a calcium lab.
Mm. What are some of the most important like lab work metrics? And what are some of them that I know we're going completely off tangent, but honestly, I like this better.
Fun.
So
Yeah.
I think free flow is in our future.
Yeah.
Um, what are some of the most important lab metrics that aren't being utilized today, or maybe that like doctors aren't looking
Yeah.
at?
I get really excited when doctors will take certain lab work because I automatically know they know what they're doing. Um, some of those are fasting insulin. I was just meeting with a doctor and he was like, I take fasting insulin. I'm like, very good. Very happy about that. He
Yeah.
knows what he's doing.
Hmm.
That's rarely taken. They usually just take a fasting blood glucose. So
Right. Okay.
fasting,
So
yeah.
yeah. All right. So I guess go in on this. So why are we doing why is fasting insulin better than fasting glucose? And why are we incorrectly caring about fasting glucose?
So fasting glucose and hemoglobin A1C, I would liken to the tip of the iceberg, but it's not telling you what's going on underneath. So, for instance, if someone is in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, and their fasting blood glucose every time is under 100, their doctor is a lot of times always telling them, "Good, no diabetes," And so they must be thinking, oh, I'm good, no problems. And then maybe they hit their 50s and all of a sudden their fasting blood glucose is out of whack. It's in the 200s. Their hemoglobin A1C is 10. It's not that it magically happened all of a sudden, but there was something below the surface chronically that was out of whack. And one of the ways that you can measure what's going on below the surface is a fasting insulin lab. What that would tell you, if your fasting insulin is high, is that your pancreas is on overdrive. It's really trying to compensate for an underlying blood sugar issue. So fasting blood glucose is like the last thing to go out of whack. So that's why fasting insulin is so important.
Got it. So we actually want to know fasting insulin over fasting glucose, because if we have a high fasting insulin, that means that my pancreas is secreting insulin for prolonged periods of time, um, which that is due to like whatever the pancreas is being exposed to, which really mean that's going to be constantly flooding my blood with eating, right?
Yeah.
I just saw in the comments, Brian, Megan, Sisk, will you continue to do lives? I'd love to refer my patients once I'm out of the dental hygiene program. Totally. Yeah, we're doing these every single Thursday, noon.
Yep.
Every Thursday, we're showing up. This is going on both of our individual professional Facebook pages and also on the Specific Chiropractic Center's YouTube. I know there's 5 people watching right now. If you guys are actually watching this and can see a chat, say hi. Say what's up. We want to see who's on here. I know my mom's probably going on a walk right now, so she's probably at Hidden Lakes Park. But yeah, say what's up. Say where you're from. Awesome. Me, I don't know who Brian Mangan Sisk is, but hope to meet you soon. Is that a friend of yours?
Yeah, that's I know them from Texas.
Oh, that's awesome. What's up? That's fascinating, because we care so much about fasting blood glucose as the measure for diabetes. But that was one thing I learned actually at UC Davis undergrad, was that diabetics, like the process began 14, 20 years prior or so, and it was just underlying. But since it wasn't in the clinical range for a diagnosis, well, we didn't do anything about it. We just said, hey, you're still good. And so we were just getting told we're still good, still good, still good, until all of a sudden we hit some measure and saying that we're not good. It's like, okay, literally yesterday I was good. Tomorrow I went up by 1 point. And now all of a sudden I'm not good. It's like, no, like you were not well for 10 years, but we didn't do anything about it because we're looking at the wrong dang thing.
Yep.
Jacked up.
Yeah. So if you were to, I was going to say, if you were to take that example of fasting insulin, fasting blood glucose, and create kind of a visual of that, imagine insulin, and people always mention this. Imagine insulin is like someone with a key, and they're outside. They're trying to bring blood sugar from outside into the home, and if it gets into the home, it can be used for you for energy. You don't want it just building up outside. If there's insulin resistance and insulin does not have the right key, or it's not working, imagine your pancreas panicking and taking a sledgehammer and just breaking down the door. And by doing that, it has a high fasting insulin. So that's what a high fasting insulin might tell you. If you have a normal fasting blood sugar, which should be taken routinely, if you have a normal fasting blood sugar, all that's telling you is that your body can keep your blood sugar normal for now. But a high fasting insulin would tell you that your pancreas is working really, really hard. And eventually, someday, it's going to give up. It's going to grow tired. It's going to run out of sledgehammers, and it's going to produce even less. And you're going to be in real trouble at that point, potentially.
There's another concept I'm interested on your take on. Are genetics the cause of autoimmune condition?
There's a lot we don't know about autoimmune conditions. The current theory is that there's a genetic predisposition.
Right.
And then there's an environmental trigger, which could be a virus. It could be it might be a food sensitivity, although the autoimmune disease might be causing a food sensitivity. So we don't know which is coming first,
chicken or
like
the egg, yeah.
chicken or the egg. So there's probably a genetic component. It seems that autoimmune diseases might kind of run in the family. A lot of times one family member will have that and another one will. So
I've in my experience so far, and also learning just stuff on YouTube from Dr. Mindy Pels. Fantastic YouTube channel. Make sure to check her out. Mindy Pels, wonderful for women's health. She said something that stuck with me, and she said that genetics are just the first rung of the ladder, but they're not what pull the trigger.
Yeah.
But yet we use genetics as a crutch.
Yeah.
We use it as an excuse, essentially saying, okay, the reason why I have Hashimoto's is because I have a genetic predisposition, and that's why.
Right.
But I don't exercise. I eat like crap. I sleep like crap. I don't think well, and my nervous system's jacked up. It's like, okay, sure, genetics are just one rung of the ladder when it comes to autoimmune conditions. But just like we were saying with like familial predisposition too, how they can like get passed on and stuff. I mean, households technically, like if you're staying in the same house for generations, that house could quote unquote be genetic, because it's like one thing I'm noticing with autoimmune condition people, and when they have widespread joint pain, is that they drink tap water. So like, I have autoimmune condition, my daughter has the same thing. I'm thinking like, okay, well, you guys are also in the same house. There might be mold in the house, and then I ask, are you drinking tap water? And they say, oh yeah. I'm like, I would stop doing that. They're like, huh? Because it's an autoimmune condition. If it's saying that the body is fighting itself, but if the body is designed to heal itself, then why would it ever want to fight itself? It's fighting something that has the same marker as something in our body. So to keep rolling with the Hashimoto's example, it's like a protein that matches that has the same like shape as the T3 or the T4 that's being made in the thyroid, so it attacks those cells. But it's which she was saying is that a lot of it's due to like heavy metal toxicity, which I find pretty fascinating. I don't know what's been your experience with Hashimoto's with your care.
Well, I want to summarize. That was really interesting that how you said we might be blaming genetics for an environmental issue. By environmental, I mean something we can control. So it makes sense if someone were to have, them and their child and their sister all to have the same types of issues. It would be hard to determine whether that was truly a genetic issue or the fact that they all grew up together and that they were all eating the same foods and potentially drinking contaminated water, or they got COVID. I mean, there's a lot of things that could potentially trigger an autoimmune disease and fuel it. So I would absolutely agree with you. I think that there's both at play. There's an interplay there. Hashimoto's, one thing I've noticed is that most people have another autoimmune condition with it. They usually come in threes sometimes. Gluten-free is the most talked about diet for Hashimoto's.
That's what it was. It was gluten matches the I think very confident it was gluten matches the thyroid cells, and that's why a lot of people with Hashimoto's it's actually the gluten insensitivity, and that's why their body's fighting themselves. Right, sorry, continue.
No, yeah, that's good. There's a prospective study on gluten-free for Hashimoto's, and it was found to be effective. So that's a start. I use the mediator release test for people with Hashimoto's, and that's been a really exciting way to treat autoimmune conditions with something other than a myriad of medications, or just telling people that there's nothing they can do. And so
have they gotten pre-post like antibodies tests done with you, and are they improving?
I don't have a lot of people that have gone through, because I just started using media release tests in June of last year, but I have
Mm-hmm.
seen them decrease. And what I think would be really cool would be a study, like a randomized controlled study on MRT and Hashimoto's using thyroid antibodies as a measure to confirm that.
Mm,
There's hundreds and hundreds of anecdotal research or anecdotal info talked about dietitians who are using that. So better than just not the type of anecdote where your friend tells you about the juice cleanse they did, but actual health professionals using uh, MRT for Hashimoto's and having success. So we would call that clinical experience, um,
mm,
rather than a randomized controlled trial. That would be really interesting. If I were
right.
to take my initial symptom survey scores and compare that to people's follow-up symptom scores, there is a huge decrease in symptoms with people with Hashimoto's and other conditions. So that has been really exciting. There's no doubt that it's decreasing inflammation. And that has been studied. MRT has been studied on IBS and fibromyalgia and all kinds of different conditions. So
Then that's like you can almost make the inference that inflammation is causing an exacerbation of the autoimmune symptomatology. Um, Dude, it is pretty dang cool when we have people that you and I are both managing, because then
yep,
it's nervous system and the inflammatory food. Like we're hitting this thing at both angles.
yeah, yeah,
Um, with from the brain making sure everything's getting coordinated, and us actually objectively being able to control the variables that are getting put into the system.
mm,
Um, that I would love to do. It could almost be like you have tiers of the study where you do a like Taichon, like people who are just on upper cervical chiropractic care,
yep,
and then pre-post antibodies, and then
hmm,
do MRT, and then pre-post antibodies, and then do both
yep,
pre-post antibodies, and then do none with the
hmm,
control group being like levothyroxine.
hmm, yep, yep.
That would be sick.
Boom. We know
We gotta
our
do that,
study, our next study. That's right.
dude. 2025, baby. We're getting a
I
study
better
done.
get
Come
some
on.
continuing education out of doing. I think I would. That better knock out some continuing education if we get a study done and published.
Dude, that would be legit. Yeah, because I mean, I have I think three or four, might have four Hashimoto cases, and or people, and all the symptomatology improves.
Mm, yeah.
I haven't really had a whole lot of info in terms of lab work,
Hmm. Yeah.
um,
They sometimes
but
wait 6 months in between
right,
those, so
yep.
it takes some time to see
Right.
that progress.
But yeah, no, it's like their heat cold intolerance like
Hmm.
improves, their energy
Yep.
improves,
Yeah.
their like heaviness in their legs improves, brain
Yeah.
fog, headaches, can't sleep, irritability, palpitations, like all these autonomic dysfunctions just start
Yep.
clearing up.
Yep.
So and but then and what's crazy is before they all thought that it was just because of their genetic
Yes.
that they're basically hopeless.
Yep. Yeah.
So cool. Mm. Um, I would love to do some takeaways before we wrap up.
Hmm. So there's so much we can talk about the immune system. We got to do an immune system part two, for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
What were your top two from what we just did in the past 38 minutes? And maybe in the comments too. In the comments with people watching, I know there's 5 people on there. Comment what your takeaway was. We'd love to get some feedback. But Nathan, what were your top two from past 38 minutes?
One is that you mentioned we don't have the ammo if we're depleted on the nutrients, and partly that could be because we have a highly processed diet and we're not eating well before we get sick or during when we're sick. But it could also be that when you have a catabolic illness, so your body is breaking down and using these nutrients at a much more rapid pace, especially vitamin C and zinc, then you can get depleted really quickly. So you got to refuel and your system. And gosh, there's so many takeaways. Um, I think two would be finding healthy foods that you can tolerate, like a good old soup with vegetables that have been softened and broken down, and chicken and protein, and getting those types of things in, drinking plenty of fluids, not neglecting electrolytes when you're sick, rather than just going for a bunch of processed food because it feels good. That'd be my two takeaways.
I like that. My first one definitely is the salt isn't the issue. I have high blood pressure because you don't have enough potassium. That was good. That was gold. I know we blame salt a lot for stuff, and we look at people dumping salt on food, and we're like, just horrified.
Right.
But then don't bat an eye at the processed foods that are going to be resulting in the negative sugars and the processed carbohydrates, because we need carbohydrates. And number two probably be I mean, shoot, just like how when our system is stressed out, how important it is to continue to do all the variables and like controlling your variables. But I mean, really also the fasting insulin versus fasting glucose, and how that's really what docs care about is fasting glucose, especially when it comes to pre-diabetic versus diabetic. But what we're not checking is fasting insulin.
Right.
And then lastly, just that. I mean, typically we pick a topic and then we'll free flow from there, but I actually really enjoyed going outside the boundaries of the theme of the week.
Yeah.
So I think that just free flowing, picking each other's brains, because there's one thing I learned about Nathan and hanging out with Nathan a lot is that there's never enough time to get all the nuggets, because it's just so in depth and I need reminders.
Yeah.
But no, it's always fantastic. Well, if you guys enjoy this, we both got some people to see, and we're doing this every week, every Thursday at noon, the Nutritional Edge. And don't be surprised if we start getting a little polarized, maybe a little controversial, and start saying some stuff that might make people be like, what did they just say? And
we kicked it off with the salt isn't the worst thing in the world.
That
was a good starter.
Oh yeah, no, we're gonna be putting some kindling in the fire when it comes on. But make sure to keep on coming on. Subscribe. Make sure to like both of our Facebook pages. Click subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube. You got a good takeaway right here. Enjoy each topic. What nutrients benefit us when sick? Properly replacing electrolytes without promoting viral replication by ingesting high amounts of sugar. Ooh. And getting fasting insulin checked so that we do not potentially wreck our pancreas. The info was golden. Come on.
That's that an AI bot that did that? That was beautiful.
No, that was Brian Megan Sisk. Yeah.
Oh wow. Look at that. Yeah.
Yeah. If you click on comments, you can read the chat.
Nice.
We're still learning this as we go. This is our second one. Second one of the year. This is week 2 of 2024. Hopefully we're not behind. But yep, every single week we're ripping 52 of these this year, and there will be a point, there will be a time where there is 50 some people watching this.
That's right.
We're just gonna keep on doing it, keep starting. Tell your friends. No Megan Sisk in the flesh. Megan, you get a point. You get a point right there.
That's awesome.
We love the interaction. We love the chat. That's awesome. Thanks for hanging out with us today. And to my mom, I hope that that you finished up your walk out in that Hidden Lakes Park, and I hope that you got some hills in, because women, men, humans need to walk at an incline.
That's right.
That's awesome. Well, everybody, it's been great.
Right.
Any last words, Nathan, before we sign on off?
Looking forward to seeing you guys next Thursday. Tell us what you want us to talk about. We'll answer your questions.
Tune in next week. If you want to receive email reminders, make sure to reach out to us. Give us a like. We'll get you plugged in on our email list. We both got newsletters. Both have a lot of things coming on. And we're tapping in. 2024 is on. See ya.